All right, welcome to Myrtle Beach. It's me, Zach the Russian. I mean, all of you may have heard about me or watched my video if you're here on YouTube, and it's been like 3 months since I'm in the US. It's beautiful weather today outside here. I have my friend Aisha at the camera filming, and I'm gonna just talk a little bit about my experiences so far, how it's been here in the US, what I experienced, cultural shocks. I actually had a cultural shock public speech recently. You know, the US is really different from Russia, obviously, but I guess some people don't really even realize how different it is. And I've experienced it myself twice. I've been to the US before in 2021. Some of you, my old viewers, might have heard about it. Yeah, and basically after the war started, I guess a lot of people would guess like, oh, you come to the US and people are going to be hostile towards you. They're going to hate you because of you are Russian or anything. But to be honest, not really. Like, I got the best experience so far. Nobody ever told me anything bad because I'm Russian when they find out. And obviously I have an accent, so people like start to ask, where are you from? And I'm like, Russia. And yeah, there is some talks, of course, about politics, like especially with taxi drivers. I think it's universal. In every country you go, taxi drivers discuss politics, like they decide politics. Anyway, I think the second day, once I came to the US, I went to DMV, and there was this old lady, she sat next to me, and we were having this conversation. And once she found out from Russia, I would she kind of paused for a little bit, so I was thinking maybe she's gonna say something bad or something hostile or something about Ukraine. But eventually she was shook my hand. She shook my hand. I was like, what? And she started to tell me oh, I have this ancestry from Russia and this and that. She was saying that she has a ancestor from Romanov family, the royal family of Russia. I was like, yeah, sure. So yeah, and overall I remember later she was like, welcome to America, son, and went away. Really, it was the most kindest experience. So overall I would say I've never got a real experience of anyone hating me because I'm Russian. And I guess some of you were curious about it, so I really wanted to mention that. There was one case with a guy actually from Palestine. He was a taxi driver and Uber in Greenville, North Carolina. And he was when he found out that I'm against the war and I don't like Putin, he was like, wait, are you Russian and you don't like Putin? What's wrong with you? And so it was the only thing that kind of blew my mind a little bit. But overall, it was more than fine. Also, one of the, related to common events, recent events, I was really surprised to see a few Ukrainian flags, maybe because I live in the South. So here people are kind of egocentric and they don't really care about stuff outside of the South, outside of the US overall. So I've seen only, I think, 4 Ukrainian flags, and I was really surprised. I'm actually going to go to Seattle area in December, January. If you're going to be there, hit me up. And hopefully I'll see more flags over there in support of Ukraine. Let's talk about the real cultural experience. Well, what I want to say about overall what I think of the US and what I noticed is different in everyday life. And since I go to college, I deal with a lot of people of my age, a little bit younger, because community college, teenagers. I was surprised a lot of teenagers in the US, they actually work since the age of 15, 16, some from 14. That's crazy. People don't really work from this age in Russia. I worked when I was 14 in Russia, but it was uncommon. All my friends were like, why? Why don't you just enjoy your life? And I just really like this mindset of trying to become independent as soon as possible, trying to get to making your own money. So that's really interesting. It's really different from Russia. Another thing is that people, they actually live in houses and not apartments. And I'm from Russia. I spent literally 18 years of my life living in an apartment in one of those commie blocks. I have a whole videos basically comparing different types of commie blocks to different types of houses in Russia. People live in houses, and it's awesome. I love it. Right now I stay with my aunt. She lives in a house, and it's just awesome to have so much land and so much space. And some people may say oh, it's not effective. And I've met a couple of Americans who were saying, oh, I like the Russian way of accommodations because you guys use it in a more effective way. You take up less space. Why do you need so much space like Americans? And to be honest, so far, I experienced both this and that, and I would say I lean towards more of an American type of accommodations, houses. Yeah, also a lot of teenagers, since I do a lot of teenagers recently, they have their own vehicles and they drive themselves since like the age of 16, 15. That's crazy actually, because like in Russia, well, if you get a car when you're like 18, that's already kind of like an achievement. So not a lot of people do that. But here in the US, I mean, that's a necessity. And I understand why. Because I've been a pedestrian for about 3 months so far. And it's terrible. Like, the US is not a pedestrian-friendly country. And I've been to different parts of the US. So I've experienced, different parts. Maybe you'll say, like, in some parts it's better, in some it's not. Nah, not really. Especially here in the South, like, people, they all drive their own type of transport. I just left the gym, and I want to show you something. I guess you guys are gonna be a little bit surprised. Don't freak out. Yeah. So here is my beast. That's a Yamaha XV 1600cc B-Star Silverado 2001. It's actually as old as me. It's literally like my twin brother, because I was born in the year of 2001. And yeah, it's pretty old. Yeah, there are some scratches. It's not perfect, but you know what? It's my first ever motorcycle, and I freaking love it. Just look at it. The shiny chrome and like all those leather bags and everything. It's like a dream. And the reason why I decided to buy it is basically because I'm really limited on my transportation. Here's my bike, by the way. I'm really limited on my transportation. There is this 180 days rule which doesn't allow me to drive a car. Like, I cannot even pass the road test. And I have a beginner's permit, so I can drive, but should be someone who should watch me driving a car. So it's really hard. But there is no such limitations on motorcycles, and this is why I decided to go with a motorcycle, basically. It was actually not expensive. It was alright. It was like $3,500. So yeah, can spend almost all my money on this. But it isn't crucial. Like in the US, one of the cultural shocks is actually that in the US it is impossible to just survive without a vehicle, especially if you live somewhere in the South or just out of the city, or not in a huge city. Like Myrtle Beach is like, how many people live here? Maybe 230,000 people live here. So that's basically why I got it. And it fits me perfect. Like, I'm a tall guy, I'm like 6'3". I already use it to get to the gym from my home. And yeah, I love it. Let me actually start. Here is, you put this here. You're gonna press the brakes, and then you gotta put the key. Let me actually, I don't know, how do I do that? Wait a second. For those who never drove bikes, so basically before you start, it should be in inertial position, like the transmission should be in inertial position. And here you press the kill switch and start the bike. It is a little bit loud. I didn't want it to be that loud, but you know, it is what it is. I bet some of my neighbors already hate me for the sound, but I can't really do anything about it. Right now I have a motorcycle, but before I bought a motorcycle, I felt like I'm a disabled person. Like, every time you gotta go somewhere, you cannot walk. There are highways everywhere. They surround you everywhere. So you cannot just go and walk. Even though I live by the ocean, it's literally the first time in 2 months I made it to the ocean. Yeah, hope you guys enjoy it a little bit, like I do. Yeah, so it's not really a pedestrian-friendly country, but at the same time, the transport is really affordable. So it's not like a really big problem. And overall, like, you can get a driver's license, or at least like a permit for beginners in an easy way. There are some restrictions to it, of course, but yeah. I remember I filmed my first video from the US in 2021, and a lot of you actually remembered my phrase that the grass is always greener on the other side, and it's actually greener here, and I still stand to the point. It is greener in the US. And the main reason for that, because people care for the grass. They cut it, they water it every time. They really do. So it is really greener on this side, not other side. I mean, when I was in Russia, it was other side, so it is greener, all right? I still stay to the point, even though some of you wanted to debate with it. I remember people were like texting me like in Insta or like in emails, like, hey, Zach, it's not like that easy. Well, it is. Like in Russia, maybe like in Sochi in Moscow, it can be like green. Okay, because I mean, all the oligarchs live there, so they want it to look pretty. But like from my hometown, like the far east of Russia, bro, if you see grass, I remember first time I come to Moscow, I've seen the grass. I've literally felt like I have some kind of like a kink to the grass, to the freaking grass. I know, maybe the kink is not the right word, but anyway, that's what I really felt like. Yeah, and also I really wanted to say about like the American mindset, kind of, about this feeling of community. So like right now we live in like in a house, and I'm surprised all the houses they kind of separated like communities. So there's like a community, like I leave the community where another person leaves, and they have like their associations. They pay some money for associations. It's not really a common thing in Russia. Like it's really rare. It's like a new concept basically. So it's really nice. You know, people even like with Halloween. It was like Halloween a couple of days ago, and even with Halloween, you go from house to house, you meet your neighbors, you meet people in the community, you make friends, you make acquaintances, and it all keeps this feeling of community, feeling of being a part of something alive. And same goes with churches or other religious organizations you attend. It builds up the feeling of community. People talk to each other. People interact with each other. Because in Russia, you are not supposed, if you go to the church, you are not supposed to even talk to anything to a person sitting next to you. Or after the service, you're not supposed to go and meet the people. You come there, you pray to God, you go out. That's it. So it's really nice to have this feeling of community. And I feel like it's not only religion, it's like in American culture. Even though they used to say like, oh, US is more of an individualistic culture, while like the Soviet Union used to be socialism, so it's more like collectivistic culture. But I feel like it's opposite, to be honest. Maybe now, because like the Soviet Union collapsed and I didn't experience it. I was born in Russia, not in the USSR. So, but it is from what I feel from my experience. And yeah, speaking of churches, people are so way more religious in the US than in Russia. Surprisingly. I mean, not surprisingly. There are many reasons to that. I actually mentioned that in my video about the church. You can check it out. I guess the link is going to be somewhere here. And also, just overall, really religious, but not as religious as in Georgia. So I've been living in Georgia. People in Georgia are extremely religious. It's like Orthodox Christianity, and it's extremely religious. But here in the US, it's kind of like in the middle, and I enjoy it as being an atheist. So, yeah. And the last one, but not the least, hopefully, it's about the Southern accent. I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to the South. It's going to be so bad. I'm not going to understand what people are saying. But actually, I'm surprised. But the Southern twin, however you call it, it's kind of non-existent. I mean, I don't really meet a lot of people who speak it, and I don't really have problems understanding people. I don't really know how did it worked out. Maybe that's because of the Myrtle Beach is really like a place where people come from all over the states. But it's kind of interesting that, I can understand people. I don't really struggle. I don't have this Southern twin as, for example, like Slava from Russian Plus channel, who lived in Tennessee for 2 years and became like a Southern. That's crazy. So, yeah, overall, that's all about my cultural shocks. I wouldn't say it was like as severe right now as it was in 2021. Because in 2021, when I came, it was like mind-blowing. Right now, it is different. It's just more chill. There are different stages and phases of cultural shock. You can check it out. There is a whole study, actually. The whole science, not science, but like a field of science actually says that there are different cultural shocks and different stages of it. One of the things which I don't really like about the US, and it's also considered as a cultural shock, is the amount of calories people here eat. Just American diet overall. Everything is extremely sweet, even like in bread. Imagine, in a bread, it's really hard to find bread with no sugar. In Russia, yeah, you're supposed to add sugar, but like 1 gram, not like 20. And just overall, if you see the family is obese, the kid is also going to be obese. And it's not even because of genetics. I feel like it's just because of people's culture towards food. The portions are crazy. And me as a Russian, who comes from Russia, and my grandma used to teach me like, hey, don't leave anything on the plate. Otherwise, you don't respect me, and you don't respect food. Like, there is some kind of god of food. Like, she feels this way. And basically, she made me to finish my food. So I have this habit. And if I come to an American restaurant, and there is a bunch of food. Of course, I'm gonna finish it if it's there. Actually, I'm talking about this, huh? Look at me being hypocritical. I'm talking about all of this, but you know what I have in my hands? Enjoy the sunset. Yeah, I already ate one. I had this dream when going to the US, to Myrtle Beach, that every day after college I'm gonna go by the beach. I didn't know that I will need some transport, some vehicle to do that, but the reality is always different. But overall, look at that. I'm a happy kid with a bunch of donuts. I'm gonna pull out my towel, a beach towel, and yeah, talk about culture shock a little bit. So the second cultural shock, which is negative culture shock, is about guns. I know there's gonna be a bunch of you folks out there with a bunch of ARs stored in your garage who are gonna say, Zach, you don't understand anything about the US. That's about our freedom. And I understand that, yeah, there is this stake, like you want to make sure the government will not take over all your freedoms and all your rights, and the guns keep you to protect your rights. But still, the feeling of unsafeness about the guns is present just in the air. People speak about it all the time, about mass shooters. Like even my Russian relatives here, they are afraid. For example, my Russian aunt, she has a child and she goes to school, and my aunt literally went to talk to a principal about installing bulletproof windows in schools because she's afraid of that. My professor at my college said, like, I wish we would have a bulletproof windows. And every time, you know, there is a mass shooting happening or any kind of shooting, she always mentioned that she just feels unsafe. And overall, seeing all of those signs like no guns are allowed, that's crazy. Actually, I also remember that in school, I knew at least I think 2 classmates who actually have guns, and it seems like it is so easy to get them here. It's just crazy. And you know, especially in schools, who knows what happened in schools? Like, who knows about the emotional status of those people? And I'm pretty sure there is no, like, you don't really have to go through a lot of stages to get a gun, and it's super easy. So overall, I feel like I'm safe because of guns. Statistics kind of prove that. If I compare US to Canada and like level of violence with firearms in the US comparing to Canada, and I think that those are the 2 important countries to compare because they are in the same land, they are the neighbor countries, speak the same language, people are almost the same, and to be honest, I don't really feel, when I meet Canadian, I never can tell a difference if it's a Canadian person or if it's a American from the north. It's like November. This guy just came over to me and said that he doesn't have shower, doesn't have water at his home, so he came here by the ocean to actually swim. So I wanted to also say things about motorcycle, because it's been like a day and I was thinking, did I tell enough about the motorcycle? Well, basically, the reason why I got it is not because I want to and like it was my dream or something. I actually hated the idea that I need to get a motorcycle. But it is a necessity to get a motorcycle just to be able to move around, to go to college, to go to the beach, even to the beach here. It's impossible to walk. It's going to take like 3 hours one way. It's the US. It's impossible to leave without a car. And overall, I feel like I need to do more vlogs, more content outside of my bedroom. And for this, it's impossible to actually just walk to places or call Uber all the time. Uber is really expensive in the US, not like in Georgia or Russia. So yeah, that's also part of the reasons I got a motorcycle. Not because like I really wanted to get a Harley and like, you know, flex around to ride like this. Like, oh. No, I actually always hated the type of the people who drive motorcycles. But here you are. We become what we hate. That's how the Russians say sometimes. So yeah, overall, I'm really happy about my life right now, especially since I got finally a new type of vehicle and I can just come here and enjoy the sunsets by the Myrtle Beach, by the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, overall life is really nice. Hopefully to publish more content from real life, hopefully to travel more. Got a couple of ideas. You tell me your ideas in the description below about everything, and we'll see if I'm gonna do something what you guys suggested me to do. But for now, it was me, Zach the Russian. Thank you for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Also, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, There's a Patreon page, of course. Unfortunately, there's not much of an exclusive going on, but this way you can support me with the less commission being taken from other third parties. And overall, yeah, as usual, I wish peace in Ukraine, freedom in Russia. See you in the next videos. Bye.